Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here every week to break down everything happening in pop culture. And it's a Monday, so that means we're going to break down everything that's happened on Bravo over the last week. And if you're like me, you're feeling fatigued, you're tired, because the Scandoval keeps coming. And guys, last week when we talked about the Scandoval, or the Tom, Ariana, and Raquel issue, I thought that we had seen everything we were going to see. I mean, of course, we know cameras are back up. I had predicted that the cast was going to be having to go down into kind of lockdown because, the producers don't want that story being told ahead of those episodes airing. And that is not the case, because every time I feel like I close my eyes to go to bed, I mean, we have to sleep, right? I feel like every time I turn my phone back on or look at my phone, there's something new that has happened. Someone has come out and said something, a statement was released, new information is just constantly coming. So, so the Scandoval will kind of start there. There's some other breaking Bravo news that we're going to talk about. And then of course we'll deep dive on the episodes. But a couple of quick hits on the Scandoval. I think the best part, yes, we're now calling Raquel Rachel, because we have learned that that's her real name, and that Raquel was just a made-up name for the show. So Rachel hired Erica Jane's PR firm. When all of this was kind of breaking, she updated her Instagram. It was so funny because, Ariana shut down her in all of her socials. She came off of Instagram. She went off of Twitter, because she wanted to escape from this. She's going through real issues, something that's really upsetting to her. She didn't want to be bogged down with all the comments and the haters and the trolls. And meanwhile, the troll herself, Rachel, is updating that she has her new PR contact and she's got her comments opened. You can keep on sliding into her DMs because she is clearly living for this. So, Rachel hired Erica Jane's PR firm. She updated that on her Instagram shortly after all of this news broke. And then a day later, that came down, because what we found out is that Erica's PR firm fired her because they were like, the story doesn't make sense. The story doesn't add up. We don't know how to really craft this narrative, because I think so the rumor is that they were going to try to position Raquel as the victim of all of this. So a victim of Tom Sandoval, in that he, kind of took advantage of her, a victim in that, this video of Raquel pleasuring herself that Ariana found on Tom's phone, that was recorded without her knowledge. And so there was a big revenge porn and, send it to Daryl, when Lala got her legal letter telling her that she needed to remove that video if she had a copy of it. And she took to Instagram to tell everyone that, you don't reach out to the cast directly. If you have a real lawyer, they know that you talk to my lawyer. And so apparently her lawyer, Daryl, she said, send it to Daryl. It went viral within, I feel like it went viral within a matter of minutes. And within a day or two, Lala was already sporting a send it to Daryl hoodie. So Lala knows how to capitalize on all of this. So good for her, girl. But yeah, so Rachel's narrative was going to be that she was the victim, and that, she was just this innocent kind of bystander that was, falling in love with someone who was essentially taking advantage of her, and the revenge porn of it all. And then, of course, we had heard the news that when Sheena found out while Rachel and Sheena were in New York, that she had punched her, or that she had slammed her phone against the wall and attacked her in some kind of way. So we don't know exactly what happened. And obviously there were no cameras there for this, so we don't have any kind of proof of what had happened. But we do know that Rachel filed a restraining order against Sheena over this last week, claiming that she was physically assaulted. And then Sheena's lawyer released a statement saying that this was all fabricated, that none of this actually happened, and that, Sheena and the rest of her castmates are looking forward to kind of days where we don't have to talk about Rachel anymore and getting beyond this incident. So nothing, we don't really know what is true. And then, of course, Rachel submitted some photos to the press of her with a black eye and a scratch over her eye. And essentially was like they were trying to say that this was the proof of the assault from Sheena. And then the cast has said that she had those bruises ahead of their trip to New York, and then their photos showed up online of her with these like this dark circle under her eye ahead of the New York trip. So that seems to be debunked. It's probably why this PR firm fired her, because again, they couldn't confirm any of the things that she's trying to sell. And so it's not looking good. But we do know also that the Vanderpump cameras are back up, and that we actually heard that they had to stop filming some of the Beverly Hills. They had an event. I think it was the night after all of this news broke, or that they found out. They had an event at Dorit's house that the Beverly Hills cameramen were supposed to be filming, and they had to postpone that event because they needed all those cameramen for the Vanderpump stuff. So that's a little bit of the behind the scenes tea. But yeah, they put cameras back up. We know that Ariana has filmed with the girls. We know that there's been a Tom Sandoval and Ariana conversation that has been filmed at their house. And we also know that last Saturday, Tom and Raquel also filmed a scene. And the reason we know about that scene, though we don't know exactly what happened, we know that Tom was unhappy with the narrative that was coming out of that scene, and he didn't like the way that he was being portrayed. And so he asked the producers if they could reshoot it so that he could get his story straight, or get a different story out there. And so they said no, of course, because this is reality TV and they also have a job to do. And so he's then threatened to stop filming. I don't think that's going to happen because he's as thirsty as Rachel, and the two of them, I feel like they will definitely show up at the reunion next week when it films. They'll continue to film. They'll continue to like try to, put themselves out there. Because they're hungry for fame. I don't think that they're going to stop filming. So, but I am interested to see what comes of that scene. We also have heard that Rachel's moved back in with her parents and that she's focusing on her quote mental health. And then both of them have now released statements. Ariana has not released any official statements, though she has kind of like told friends that they can post certain things and say like she's doing well, she's devastated, and she's just kind of like dealing with it all. And I think that's all she really wants to do. Ariana seems like a home girl, and I think she's just like down for wanting to just like focus on herself right now, and I'm supportive of that. But Tom released his second statement because, as we know, in his first statement, it showed no remorse. It had no apology to it. All it really said was like, please leave my businesses alone, which fired up the community. And we had a lot of people that were just saying like, well, where's the remorse for Ariana? Why haven't you apologized to her publicly? So people were calling for this. So he did do that. He obviously brought in a PR person as well to write something for him. So who knows if he's even read it. But the statement is that he does show remorse, and that he is very sorry to Ariana, and that he loved her very much, and hates that the way that this played out. It does sort of read in a way that is like, like we can kind of see the writing on the wall of his story of that he was going to break up with her anyways, and that this relationship was going to end. But he hates the way that he went about it. So that's kind of where his was. And then I think it was like 4 hours later, Rachel releases her statement, of which she, again, clearly did not write it, because a girl thought that she didn't whoever she did end up hiring for her publicist didn't really like think it through, because there's a lot of words in this statement that I was like, we know Rachel's not using the word foremost I don't think she knows how to use that word. So we're not buying that she wrote this statement, but it does say that foremost, she, apologizes to Ariana, and then it goes into kind of her victim mentality of, I have received death threats, and I have received physical attacks, and I have received, all my family and friends have received things. And, I'm really focused on my own mental health, and I need to deal with my issues of like something about to the effect of like falling in love with men who are bad for her and things, and that she's like got an addiction to men. And it's like, well, girl, we're all focusing on our mental health, and I think you just don't really like care about other people because you're so narcissistic. And so I think that's what the apology should have read, but it didn't. And then she came out with another Notes app apology because I'm sure that she read some things online about what was missing from the official statement. And so she, wrote another one that basically was like, I'm on my healing journey. So, her and Whitney Rose from Salt Lake City, they can be on their healing journeys together. Because I don't think anyone's really buying that Rachel is, healing from anything. But yeah, the Sandoval or the Scandoval rather, it just keeps on delivering. Like I said, every time I look at my phone, it's like there's something new. Kristen Doty has come out on her podcast and revealed a lot of information. But now she's also filming. So she confirmed that she's back on Vanderpump Rules for these final few episodes. And so, a lot is just unfolding. Jax is still not back, and thank God, because this guy, he's trying so hard to be in the middle of this. He just keeps being like, see you soon on Watch What Happens Live. Meanwhile, he's not booked. So it's, who knows? He and Brittany are still trying to find it, but they are the couple that lasted, right? That's pretty wild. Schwartz and Sandoval both ended their relationships, and Jax, who we know was cheating several times on that show. He had storylines about cheating, and he's the one that's still in his marriage. So that's probably pretty shocking to us all. And yeah, so it's just wild. And it's like, who would have thought that like Time Magazine, CNN, these news outlets are covering the Scandoval. And I'm getting text messages from friends that have never watched a second of Bravo, quite frankly. And they're asking me questions about like, so wait, what's the difference between a Sandoval and a Schwartz? And by the way, guys, where is Schwartz? Like, I know that we saw the TMZ footage of him in the airport, but I'm like, why hasn't he released a statement? Because there's a couple of things that I'm a little like upset about through this, and I'm hoping that this all comes out in the show and that we get some of this. But I know that the question of whether or not Schwartz knew and was covering or not is like a little foggy. We have heard that maybe like Schwartz knew for the last month, but didn't know when they were filming. So the stuff that we're seeing play out on television right now, where Raquel's trying to convince Tom Schwartz to like make out with her and do things like that is stuff where Tom really did think that was happening and didn't know that there was a Sandoval layer to all of this, which is diabolical in my mind for her. But why doesn't he release something? Why doesn't he say something? I mean, first of all, he's his business partner. And maybe that's the reason why, but like, I want to know what his thoughts are, but he always just like plays this like middle of the fence guy. And like, this is his time to step out of the Sandoval shadow and say like, this guy was a garbage person and he did something horrible to a friend. And I felt like I was like I was his pawn and his cover, and I look horrible as a result of this, but he's not saying anything. And so we did see him at the airport. TMZ caught up with him, and he basically was just kind of like, yeah, Tom's going through it, and I'm hoping everything is okay for Ariana, and I'm rooting for her, and I hope that she like lives her life now, and but he never really said anything in that interview. And then the other piece of this that I'm just like, it doesn't add up for me is, why aren't we focusing on Katie? Like, Katie was the scapegoat of all of this. And so Raquel Rachel keeps going to Katie and talking about how she has all these feelings for Schwartz. And, Katie's crying and like, this is my ex-husband who we got divorced like 5 seconds ago. And you want to date this guy. And meanwhile, this wasn't even real for Rachel. She was basically needing to say this to Ariana. And I don't know. I feel really bad for Katie because I feel like she was kind of like a Schwartz, like sort of a pawn in all of this game, that like they took the fall in a really horrible way and had to go through a lot of like horrible conversations and thoughts and feelings about what was potentially happening with the Rachel of it all. And so that, and then one other note on this is that something that dawned on me is that I always thought that it was weird last season when James was proposing to Rachel and Tom Sandoval paid like $25,000 for their engagement. And I was like, why is he paying so much for James to propose to Rachel? So I think like, even though they're saying that this was about a 6 to 7 month affair, I think that there were feelings or there was something going on before that, because you don't pay that kind of money for somebody that you don't care about. But anyways, we got to move on from the Scandoval. But as I said, things keep coming out. Cameras are up, cameras are rolling. And we'll just talk briefly about the episode this week of Vanderpump, and then that'll kind of kick off our recaps. But I don't know if I can watch the rest of the season because it's so strange to be them trying to sell us this Rachel and Tom Schwartz thing. Like, because we all know what's happening. I do think that the editors are working on kind of recutting some of the scenes, because we had, what's her name? Kristen Kelly, who was like, people give Rachel this benefit of the doubt because she's like a baby, but that's an insult to babies. And so she like had her, she had her like little dig, and I feel like that wasn't in the episode originally, but I think editors are like, okay, let's pull in stuff to like really start to build the story about how horrible these two people are, so that when it all breaks, it like feels like it was a natural story. Because she, I do think that, they're bringing in certain comments, because there was also, Ariana says when they're talking about, when Raquel says to Katie, I want to make out with Schwartz or whatever. And Ariana says, is this the first time I'm going to be mad at Raquel? I mean, that's the quote. And I was like, okay, that got brought in because now we're starting to see Ariana, because obviously we know that Ariana hates this person now. And then James's mom, when she's having lunch with James and his new girlfriend, and she says something about like, to the girlfriend, like, well, you didn't have a family member drive you to SUR to meet a DJ and become famous. And again, so we're starting to craft this narrative of like who this person really was this whole time. And I think that that's really, I might be interested enough if they keep doing that and keep editing these episodes together that way. Obviously, Rachel with Oliver, who we later learned was married, but it was such a weird thing because Lala was like flirting with Oliver and was like, I have had a crush on Oliver forever. And then all of a sudden they're having this weird conversation at the bar where Rachel's like, oh, but Lala, if you're interested, I don't want to go after him. And Lala's like, well, you weren't interested in him until I was. And like, I'm not going to like compete. So if you want to be with him, be with him. And then they're like kissing on the dance floor. And of course that worked out in Lala's favor because Oliver turned out to be married. So that was actually a good thing for Lala that she took a step back. And then what else we had? Oh, I felt like also at the table where Katie's mom was like kind of going at Rachel and like being like, this is a divorce. This is somebody that just got a divorce, and you're like going after her ex-husband, and you're sitting at a table pretending to be friends. And I was like proud of Katie's mom for kind of stepping in and schooling her over that. And then there was some weird stuff going on with the Schwartz and Sandy's business. Lisa and Ken had this meeting of like, are they trying to get the Toms out of their own business? Because twice now they've kind of presented them this opportunity of like, veiled in a way of, we're giving you guys your money back. If you need it to survive or to open your new restaurant. And that way, you know, later you can come back into our business. And I was wondering if Lisa knew something was going to happen and if this was going to like cause a ripple effect, or if there was going to be some sort of fallout, and if they were like, we got to get these guys out of our business, because that's what it was feeling like to me. It was not feeling like they were sincerely trying to help the Toms. It was feeling like there was a reason that they wanted to get them out of Tom Tom. And then I guess really the only other thing was Ariana's dog passing away was really, really sad. And you know, we had to watch her like say goodbye to her, which she kept calling her best friend. And it was just this like heartbreaking scene to watch. And again, it was like, I felt like, okay, she kept talking about how she was going to say goodbye to her best friend. And I was like, this is Tom Sandoval. And like, this is what you have to imagine is like happening right now, is she's having these same kind of emotions of this person that was like there for her. And you know, it was kind of a weird way of having that play out on television in front of us, was through the dog passing. And obviously that in itself was very sad and was sad to see that. But yeah, and I think that's really all on Vanderpump. Oh, and then Lisa was on Watch What Happens Live on Wednesday following the episode. And I couldn't tell, was she drunk? She was like on one. She was saying some wild things. She just had like, even the way that her body was just sort of like draped in the chair. I was like, I think she might have been on something. I'm hoping it was just, you know, Vanderpump Rosé, but yeah, so if you haven't seen that, you should check that out. Quickly going through Housewives, we had the first episode of our Miami reunion, which starts off with Lisa saying, we're like Charlie's Angels, and Andy, you're like, what's his name? And Andy's like, Charlie. It was amazing. And then we learned that they invited Lenny to the reunion, and that Lisa was okay with it. I mean, the women's faces when Andy said that, because obviously none of them knew, they were all as shocked as I was. It was insane that they were going to invite him there. I can't even imagine. And like Lisa was like, yeah, I said it was fine. I told him like, you know, you should do a sit down with Andy, and like, you know, or we can do a sit down together with Andy and like both air our sides of the story. Because Lenny did not come off well, and this was potentially his opportunity to sort of like defend himself, though I don't know if he is defensible, and maybe that's why he just chose not to come at all. But yeah, that was wild. And then I loved, you know, the big kind of underlying theme is that Alexia is a narcissist. I was going to say a bit of one, but I think we're just full-blown narcissist. And, you know, they're talking about that and they're claiming that she's a narcissist, and she's always like so defensive that she's not. And then what was so funny is, as, you know, Andy's like, Gertie's, you know, stand up and let's see this like dress that was like all made of chains, and she was basically naked underneath. And so he was like, you know, let me see it. And then he has, Julia stand up because she's got this like genie in a bottle kind of look going on. And he's like, you look like a, you know, Greek goddess, and like, stand up, let me see. And then he's like, okay, Alexia, how are you? And she's like, oh, I will also stand up and show you the back of my dress. And all the women, you can just see, they're like, okay, he didn't ask you to stand up. You're wearing, you know, Dillard's dress. There's nothing special about yours. Like, there's no reason for you to stand up. But you could see that she was like, I need my moment to show off my dress too. So she had that. And then, and then Nicole, who I think, Dr. Nicole, I think is one of the most beautiful women that has ever been on Housewives. But I was so sad because it was clear that she had had way too much filler in her cheek. Like her cheeks looked like they were about to explode. And every time they cut to her, I was just sad because she was so beautiful. And it always makes me really sad when I see these really, really pretty women who end up going like too far. I'm always like, I'm a proponent of like, if there's something about yourself that you really, really can't stand and it will make you feel confident and it will make you feel better, do it. But, sometimes these women just go too far. And I think that she has done that. But yeah, I think that, we just kind of got started into that Miami reunion. It's, it is seemingly going to be a little dark. And, I know that we're already picking up cameras very soon. I think within a month, Miami has been renewed and they're going to start filming again. And I think we're getting all the ladies back. So I'm hoping that we can find some resolution and peace because some of these women are just unwilling to be together. And really Alexia is the cause of all of that. And so I'm hoping that Alexia like gets a bit of a wake up call. Maybe the fans and online reactions will like bring her around before the next season films. But that's the first. We've got more installments to come. Then we had Jersey this week. I'm just obsessed with these new ladies, Rachel and her grandmother. It was, I loved her with her hair. Like she needs to get her hearing aid. And I thought like she's great TV. And what I'm loving about Jersey too this season is that it feels like we're getting a lot of family scenes. And that's something we're missing in some of our Housewives franchises is we're focusing I mean, Miami is kind of this, but I know like even Salt Lake City, it was like, I feel like all we do is that we see them like packing for a trip and then on a trip, or they're like going to an event. And then the next scene is like them going to the next event the next night. And it's like, we get that there's a lot of events and we know that that's where like the drama plays out. But sometimes we also need to like humanize these women and we need to see more of like what's actually happening. Like Beverly Hills always does that, where it's just like they're having a brunch and then the next day they're going to dinner and it's like they're always doing like a group event and we miss some of these like moments of like their family time and getting to know them as real humans. And so I'm really liking that we're doing that on Jersey again. And then, we see Melissa and Antonia while they're doing their driving. Antonia's learning to drive. She's 16. And she can't pull into the Starbucks drive-through. So Melissa has to, but in order to order her drink, I guess she has to use a fake alias because she's so famous apparently in Jersey that if she says the name Melissa, they know who she is. So she's uses Julia as her alias when she's ordering coffee. But, they're talking about the Teresa issues and she's saying like, I know you guys see this stuff online and I don't want you guys to have issues with your cousins. And I just want you guys to be like all good. And, I am for that conversation, though I think that Melissa and Joe are the reason for a lot of this toxic energy between the families. And so I don't see Melissa trying to repair that. I see her just kind of like making excuses for it. And then, saying like, well, we don't want the outcome that is coming from this to be the outcome, but she's not doing a lot to fix it. And then, Teresa's doing her wedding dress shopping and I couldn't follow if like that was the real dress because we've obviously seen the dress and it wasn't that one, but I thought she said that she was just wearing a fake one because she wanted to surprise people. But I was like confused, like, why are we even doing a wedding dress shopping scene if you don't want anyone to see your dress? So I was a bit confused why she had a dress on. I felt like that was a little for the camera. But then, Gia mentioned that the last time that she saw Melissa and Joe was before Louis came into into Teresa's life. And that the summer before is when they like used to see each other a lot. Like everyone was kind of happy. Teresa was going through her divorce. And so they were kind of all a happy family that summer. I have a theory. I think that these Gorga siblings just have this like crazy jealous energy. They were so close growing up that it's like they can't come to terms when the other person has found someone else in their life. They feel replaced. And that's what causes all of these problems. Because, if you think back to the whole Melissa and Teresa sprinkle cookies incident, it was because Teresa didn't like Melissa. And, Teresa thought that Melissa wasn't good enough for Joe. And, we had season after season after season of like Joe being like, I just want us to be family and I want you to get along with, my wife. And I want all of this, like this structure for our family. But it was so wild because now we're seeing this like opposite play out, because now that Teresa is happy and has found a man that she truly loves and that is in her life, he hates Louis. And he like with a passion hates Louis. And so it's like whenever the sibling has someone else that's like in that role, like now that Teresa's got a man in her life, Joe feels inadequate. And like, this is what's causing the problems. And I feel like the same thing was on the other side of like when Melissa stepped in Joe's life, Teresa felt replaced by her. And so that's my theory. I feel like that's what's the root of this problem, is like they can't be happy for each other because they feel like they should be each other's man and woman in their life. Not in a sexual way, obviously, hopefully, but because this is like this is how they grew up. And so they can't get past that. So that's my theory on the Gorgas. And that's kind of like, I hope maybe we get to resolution at some point with them. But I really just kind of want Joe and Melissa to like fade off the show. And maybe at that point, they can like find a way to resolution. Although at that point, I'm sure that they'll be so jealous of Teresa that they just won't be able to see anything but red. But, and then we have the brunch at Jennifer Fessler's house. And that was just insane. She was like, I'm going to make this great meal. We're not going to have drama. And then Margaret showed up in that huge hat and everything just went to shit after that. I mean, how could it not? That hat was hideous. And so Marge was activated, and she does not, her and Jennifer Aiden, there is a button that Jennifer knows how to push with Marge. It was wild. She was just, those veneers were about to fall out of her mouth. She was yelling so much. So that was crazy. And then Danielle has her daughter's Barbie birthday party. That was just so over the top. But I loved it and I was jealous of it. And in fact, that might be my next birthday party. So, and then we didn't have Potomac this week because that's over. So I don't have a Sunday night show, but we did have Summer House. And Kyle, I think, Kyle and Carl had their sit down. And I actually thought Kyle handled that conversation really well. He came across like very professional, as a CEO would. He, said to Carl, like, this is what I have been observing. This is where I've like felt like you aren't delivering. Carl was like, this is where I've felt like I am not getting compensated for doing all of these extra gigs and these events. And that's not the sales side of things. But Kyle got him to come to a place where he said like, yeah, I've been dropping the ball on the sales side of things. And so Kyle, it sort of ended with Kyle being like, we're going to give you a new title. You're no longer going to be my VP of sales. And we're going to figure out your role at the company. And I think that like put them in a good place. And I really did think Kyle handled that pretty well. And then when, of course, we get down to the house, and Andrea is back and so happy. The house was so happy. It was like a breath of fresh. Everyone was like jumping up and down, screaming that he was there. And I felt very happy to see him back as well. I don't know why we don't have more of Andrea. He's such a fan favorite. And even like they're filming Winter House right now in Colorado. And it's like, why isn't Andrea on that cast? Like, why do we keep not giving the fans what we want to see, which is more of Andrea? And quite frankly, Andrea in underwear is something that like needs to be discovered. And so we need more of that on our televisions. So it was great to see him back. His Italian dinner went a lot better-ish this time around. Nobody got a glass thrown at them. No wine flew. And then I thought that two other kind of notes on Summer House, Carl and Lindsay, I just don't know if they should be on the show. Like them, hanging out in their bedroom the whole episode is just like, it's not that entertaining. And like, I get it. I understand it. Carl is sober and he doesn't want to be around like the drunken antics, but that is also what the show is. And so I don't really know if they have enough to bring to the show anymore. And so I think that, like, if you're going to spend all your time away from the cast and you don't really want to be around that stuff, then like this might be your time. So there's that. We got, and then they started playing the game at the end of the show. And Danielle said that she has trust issues, with Amanda, or that she doesn't trust Amanda. Amanda had a complete mental breakdown. And I think that she was breaking down because of the news about her issues with potentially getting pregnant and some of the like fears that she was having that she was just talking about right before they started playing this game. So I think she had a lot on her mind and a lot of emotions. And so when Danielle said that, I think it just like hurt her in a way to her core. And then Kyle just unleashed on Lindsay and Carl. Like, I mean, really on Lindsay, he was saying all these horrible things. Carl was sitting there. Danielle gets pissed off that Carl's not defending his girlfriend. And I think we are about to go into whatever's going to happen between Lindsay and Danielle. I feel that that's coming. So that was Summer House. We got a to be continued. So we know that fight's about to continue. So maybe Carl does do something. Maybe we're getting there. But we will see. And then other news that is in the Bravo space. As I mentioned, Miami got renewed. It starts filming April 10th. So yeah, just in about a month. So cameras are going back up. We know that Beverly Hills is filming. The ladies were in Vegas over the weekend filming with the cameras. I'm not seeing any new ladies in any of these photos. And I don't know if that's intentional, like if they're having certain women step to the side so that no rumors come out as to like who might actually be joining the cast. But even in some of the like candids that people are getting of like, the boots on the ground bystanders that are seeing them, I'm not seeing any new ladies. So I am a little wondering. I'm very curious if we have any women. Also, no word on whether or not Kathy Hilton is filming. It doesn't seem that she is. She had her birthday party over the weekend, and she was filming. There were cameras up at that, so people started speculating that it was for Beverly Hills, but it's actually for Paris's docuseries or reality series, Paris in Love. So they were filming that. So she may be done with Beverly Hills, but we'll see. In Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip news, Brandy has sent a demand letter, or Brandy's lawyers have sent a demand letter to NBC asking them to release the footage and audio of the alleged sexual harassment against Caroline Manzo that has, caused waves in the news media. And she wants this footage because she claims that it will free her of what she's being accused of. And the interesting thing here is that I think we all assumed that this was true information because one would think it would be if you knew Brandy and, you saw her on season 2, she was definitely like very sexually open with the women and trying to kiss them and kissing some of them. And, there was a lot going on, touching them in a way that they were okay with. So it felt like this story like was going in, not in the way in Caroline's defense, but the interesting thing is that all of the cast members are still following Brandy on all of her socials. And, you would think, especially like a Vicky Gunvalson, who is like so conservative and, even on season 2 was like, blah, blah, oh, no, I don't want this. I don't want any of, this lesbian stuff. Like she was really buttoned up and, in her own gross conservative way. And so you would even think that like if this happened to Caroline and Vicky was a witness to it, she would be supportive of Caroline. And so I would have thought that she would not be following Brandy and that she would not be still supporting Brandy, but she seems to be. So that it seems to be very telling. So we'll see what plays out, but Brandy is demanding that this footage and audio be released. I don't think publicly, I think just to her legal team so that they can, have these conversations with Bravo, because there's a chance that Brandy won't work on Bravo again, which would be pretty horrible for her. And then Married to Medicine news, casting news, Contessa and Anita are both out. Anila are both out. Fine with that. I felt like they were no longer delivering anyways. But in order to make room, Bravo let them go because we've got Phaedra Parks back on our screens. Phaedra, of course, from Atlanta, where Married to Medicine films, and she's also dating a doctor now, so it's perfect. So now she is going to be joining the cast of Married to Medicine. So this feels right. We've got Phaedra back on our screens. All is right in the world. Of course, the reason that this took so long, Candy had given a ultimatum to Bravo that she would leave the show if they brought Phaedra back to Atlanta. And so this feels like the right solution. It's films in Atlanta. She doesn't have to. There was rumors that Phaedra was going to jump to Dubai and live in Dubai part-time just so that she could film it at the Real Housewives of Dubai. That didn't feel right or authentic. And so this does. So super excited about that. And guys, if you aren't watching Married to Medicine, what are you doing? Because if you're a housewife stan, because if you've listened to this episode for the last half hour plus, you are a Housewives fanatic. And I want to urge you to watch Married to Medicine. Someone did this to me like pre-pandemic. I got news from a friend that was like, why aren't you watching that? You love Atlanta, you love Potomac, you love, all of the Housewives franchises. This gives it all. And the women are amazing. Season 1 of Married to Medicine is where you start. There was a couple of seasons that got rocky, but literally almost every season delivers. And the reunions are some of the best reunions that I've ever seen in television. Like, it is so good. So if you're not watching it, definitely catch up before the new season, because we've got Phaedra back and that's super exciting. And then last is, and I don't think I can handle this, guys. I just don't think I can handle it. Another scandal breaking on the Southern Charm cast. It was revealed that Austin and Taylor is, of course, Shep's ex-girlfriend. They broke up at the end of last season, that they have hooked up and that this might be another Scandoval moment. It's not quite the same because even though Austin is, sleeping with his friend's ex, I think we all kind of saw that. Like, there was definitely like some sparks between Taylor and Austin last season. And so I think that like, it's not super surprising. It's also not at the Scandoval level, because what would be at the Scandoval level is if, Craig was the one that this was happening with, or, truly the best friend was having the affair. Like, if all the rumors was that Austin and Taylor hooked up, and then what we actually found out is that it was really Craig and Taylor, and Craig's in his relationship with Paige, and that would be more aligned with the Scandoval. Not saying that should happen, because I don't think my heart can handle it right now. I don't need any more scandal. But the cast is filming, and so and Shep I don't think is on this next season from what we've heard. So this might actually be a way in for Shep to film again, because I'm sure that producers are going to want Shep's reaction. So it's just all happening on Bravo as it continues to do, and that was the week that we had of Bravo. I am going to try to put some of this Scandoval news to rest, because I'm hoping that like there's not a lot left in this wheel until we can get to these episodes and actually start seeing it play out on film. But I'll be here week over week to break it all down for you. And that's our episode this time, guys. As always, I'm Chris Vetrano, and it's always a pleasure to bring you everything happening on Bravo and in pop culture. Join us this Thursday for our new episode. I'm going to be breaking down last night's Academy Awards. And I've got a special guest to come and talk all the fashion with me. So be sure to tune into that, rate and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on all the socials. I'm at CM Vetrano. And until Thursday, it's been Chris Vetrano, and have a great week.